Your thoughts on Trump's upcoming presidency, his re-election? Is pretty wild.
Yeah. So to give everyone kind of an idea of where I come from, on my political philosophy, I'm an elected Republican, but I've always been kind of on I don't want to call it the fringe of the Republican Party, but I've always been on this element that was very liberty oriented. Mm-hmm. So I end up voting no a lot more than even your typical Republican, because I think the government should be incredibly limited, very, very small, and allow people to live their lives, but you have to take responsibility for your actions. So when Trump first ran, I was not a fan. I was a Rand Paul guy. That's who I wanted to win in 2016. When he got the nomination, I voted for him, but I was still really skeptical. This year, I was enthusiastic. Mm-hmm. And the reason why is not because I agree with him on everything. And morally, we have some differences. Life is a huge issue for me. And so I take some issues with the president on life. But he understands, I think, perhaps more than any president in my lifetime, the enormous threat to freedom that an ever expanding federal bureaucracy creates. Because bureaucracies take on a life of their own. They take on interests of their own. And they almost always grow at the expense of individual liberty, property rights, free markets. And that's what we've seen happen. He's the first guy I've seen that has not only pledged to do something about it, but has surrounded himself with the right people to actually do something about it. Mm. And so for that reason, I was not only enthusiastic this year, I am incredibly excited about what can be done during this next.
Did you think he was going to win?
I did. I did. We started doing analysis back in March. And at that point I said, yeah. And then it was still Trump versus Biden. And it was funny, myself, my co-host Christian Hines, and my wife are all on our podcast making the argument. And in March, I made everyone make ridiculous predictions. I said, you got to make a ridiculous prediction.
Okay. Yeah.
Mine was that Trump would win 30% of the black male vote. Okay. I think he got 24.
Wow.
My wife's was Biden will not be the candidate. And Christian and I both, and Christian's very good at this, very good. We're both like, no, it's too late. They can't trade him out at this late in the game. And she was right. But in March, we both thought that, election held today is going to win. And certainly toward the end there, it became pretty evident that no, he's got the groundswell of support. And so, yeah, I was not surprised that he won. I was surprised by how overwhelmingly he won.
Do you think this time around he's going to be a lot more ruthless with who he cans and who he hires?
Yes, he needs to be. The biggest mistake that he made in his first term was going in there, and he wanted to be. I think he had, and again, I obviously don't speak for him, but I think he had two lines of thought. I think the first line of thought was Trump understands business, he understands negotiation, but politics is very, very different from the business world. And so I think he felt like he needed people that understood that world to be able to effectively operate. Mm. And then I think he was also trying to build bridges with elements within the party that were very skeptical of him. And so he wanted to kind of bring everyone in together and try to work the way he would in the business. The problem is the guys that he picked that understand how DC worked, like how DC works. Because it's not just one side of the aisle or the other. There's an element within politics that they like the status quo. They understand the rules of how the status quo works, and they will fight like hell to protect that status quo. Mm-hmm. Now he's going into it realizing, okay, those guys were not my friends. They don't want the same things that I want, that the people who voted for me want. And so now he's surrounding himself with people like Thomas Massey, right? J.D. Vance. I just heard Joel Salatin, who's like a hero of mine, is going to be going, I think, over to USDA. He's talking about RFK Jr. for the FDA. Like, these are the things where it's like, yeah, he got it. You need people who know how the system works, but who want to do to the system the same thing you want to do to the system. Mm-hmm. And so I do think it'll be different this time.
Hey, thank you so much for watching. Before you go, do us a favor, leave a comment, let us know what you thought of the video, like, and subscribe.